For 30-year-old Jennifer Sebena, Christmas Eve 2012 was meant to be just another shift. The Wauwatosa police officer had volunteered to work overtime, patrolling the quiet Wisconsin streets whilst families prepared for Christmas morning. But someone had been watching Jennifer. Someone had been studying her patrol routes, planning the perfect moment to strike. At 3:45 on Christmas Eve morning, that moment arrived. 2 gunshots shattered the winter silence, then 3 more, and her killer would be someone she had trusted with her life. Jennifer Lynn Sebena was born on the 21st of June, 1982. From childhood, she had known exactly what she wanted to do with her life. She wanted to serve her community as a police officer. After graduating at the top of her class from the Milwaukee Area Technical College Police Academy, Jennifer joined the Wauwatosa Police Department in January 2011. She was a natural for the work. Officer Karnick, who had interviewed her for the force, said she was mature, confident, and easy to communicate with. She possessed a maturity that was remarkable. By July 2012, Jennifer had earned her solo patrol status. Just 1 month before her death, she completed her probationary period. She was a rising star in a department that had never lost an officer in the line of duty in its 96-year history. But Jennifer's service extended far beyond her police work. She was a youth leader at Elmbrook Church in Brookfield, where she mentored about a dozen teenage girls. One of those girls, Maggie Ross, would later say that Jennifer became the person who cared more about what was going on in her life than anybody else. Lieutenant Brian Zalewski remembered her infectious smile around the station. Jennifer had that rare combination of strength and compassion that made her perfect for police work. She genuinely cared about the people she served. Jennifer's path to marriage had seemed like something from a romance novel. She and Benjamin Sebena were high school classmates who had reconnected through email whilst he was serving his second tour in Iraq. Their correspondence deepened into love across the miles. Their wedding was picture perfect. Jennifer wore white, and Benjamin stood beside her in his full Marine uniform, adorned with medals. He was a decorated war hero, a Purple Heart recipient who had served his country with distinction. Jennifer became his anchor during what would prove to be a difficult recovery from combat injuries. In February 2005, Benjamin had been severely wounded in a mortar attack that shattered his kneecap and left his arm hanging on by a couple of tendons. Doctors told him he would never walk again. With Jennifer's help and support, he proved them wrong. She was devoted to helping him heal, both physically and emotionally. Around their Menominee Falls home, Jennifer would leave loving post-it notes for her husband. "My darling, I can't wait to kiss and snuggle you when I get home," read one. Another said, "Remember to talk to God. I love you very much." But behind the fairy tale wedding photos and loving notes, a dangerous reality was developing. Benjamin Sebena had returned from Iraq a fundamentally changed man. In a 2010 video for Elmbrook Church's men's conference, he spoke candidly about his struggles. He said he had come home to a dark, lonely world. He was scared out of his mind and angry all the time. What he didn't share in that video was the full extent of his trauma. Benjamin had 68 confirmed kills during his combat service. Among them was an Iraqi adolescent he had befriended and taught English. The same boy who later fired on his platoon with a rifle, forcing Benjamin to kill him. He spoke of calling in airstrikes that killed women and children. He described the grisly task of cleaning blood and human remains off military vehicles. The psychological toll was devastating. Psychiatrist Kenneth Robbins would later evaluate Benjamin and describe his PTSD as one of the worst he had ever seen. A 10 on a scale of 10. But there were warning signs that Jennifer's life was in danger. On the 6th of December, 2012, just 18 days before her death, Jennifer confided something deeply troubling to fellow officer Tracy Burbach. She told her that Benjamin had pointed a gun at her head during one of his episodes. She described his flashbacks and expressed concern about his behavior, which seemed to worsen at night. Yet Jennifer continued to stand by her husband, leaving those loving notes and trying to help him through his darkest moments. In the days leading up to Christmas 2012, Benjamin began a sinister campaign. He started stalking his wife while she worked her patrol shifts. He was learning her patterns, identifying where she stopped for breaks, and mapping out her routine. Jennifer had no idea that the man she was trying to help recover from war trauma was now treating her like an enemy target. Benjamin was methodically planning an attack. The 23rd of December, 2012, began like any other day. Jennifer left for her overtime shift at 5:15 that evening. She was working the late shift, patrolling alone through the quiet streets of Wauwatosa. Families were settling in for Christmas Eve, children excited about the morning to come. Jennifer's last contact with dispatch came at 3:29 a.m. on Christmas Eve. Shortly after, she pulled into the car park behind Wauwatosa Fire Station No. 1. This was her routine. She would park here to complete reports and take a brief break before continuing her patrol. It was a safe, well-lit area that officers had been using for years. But on this Christmas Eve morning, someone was waiting for her. Benjamin had been lying in wait for hours in the cold darkness. He knew Jennifer's patterns. He knew she would come here. When Jennifer emerged from the fire station and began walking towards her squad car, Benjamin struck. He attacked her from behind. 2 shots from a 9mm Makarov-style pistol hit the back of her head. Jennifer collapsed to the wet pavement, reaching instinctively for her weapon. But Benjamin grabbed her .40 caliber service pistol from its holster. Then he fired 3 more rounds into her face with her own gun. At 4:24 a.m., dispatch attempted to reach Officer Sebena for a call. She did not respond. This was unusual. Jennifer was known for her professionalism and prompt responses. 4 minutes later, Officer Stahl used GPS to locate her squad car. At 4:38 a.m., he made a discovery that would haunt him forever. Jennifer's body was lying on the cold, wet pavement just outside the fire station's back door. She had been shot multiple times in the head and face. The scene was devastating. The medical examiner would later determine that Jennifer was likely killed by the first 2 shots to the back of her head. The additional rounds to her face were, as investigators noted, personal. Dr. Ashok Bedi, a board-certified psychiatrist who reviewed the case, would later observe that if you want to make sure someone is not suffering, you shoot them in the heart. As a soldier, Benjamin would have known that. Shooting someone in the face is not about ending suffering. That's anger. The Wauwatosa Police Department had never faced anything like this. In their 96-year history, they had never lost an officer in the line of duty. Chief Barry Weber, a 40-year veteran of law enforcement, called it the worst thing he had ever seen. The investigation moved quickly as detectives processed the scene and began gathering evidence. One piece of evidence immediately stood out as unusual. A spent cartridge casing marked CCIR 9x18 Makarov N. Firearms examiner Mark Simonson of the Wisconsin Regional Crime Laboratory confirmed that this caliber was exceedingly rare. It could only be fired by a handful of Eastern European firearm models and was incompatible with standard 9mm weapons. This was their first major clue. Meanwhile, Benjamin Sebena was beginning to construct what he believed would be his alibi. At 6:35 a.m., he called the Wauwatosa Police Department, ostensibly to check on his wife's well-being. When Sergeant David Moldenhauer called back and asked him to come to the station, Benjamin asked no questions. He arrived in his black 2012 Toyota Prius at approximately 6:51 a.m. When officers informed him that his wife had been killed, Benjamin never asked what had happened to her. What investigators found next would prove crucial to the case. Wisconsin Department of Transportation traffic cameras had captured a black Toyota Prius with distinctive dark rims travelling westbound on Burleigh Street at 3:45 a.m., then northbound on Highway 45 1 minute later. This was a route consistent with travel from the crime scene directly to the Sebena residence. Additional footage from a BP petrol station showed the same vehicle earlier that night. A consent search of the Sebena home on the 24th of December yielded damning evidence. Detectives found a box of Blazer CCI brand 9x18 Makarov ammunition with cartridges missing. They discovered documents for a KBI model PS63 pistol that fired that exact rare caliber. Throughout the house, there were fist-sized holes punched through the drywall with trace bloodstains. In the garage, they found a shower curtain that had been hastily stuffed into the rubbish. Most critically, detectives noted that Jennifer's service weapon, which had been taken from her holster at the crime scene, was missing. But perhaps the most damaging evidence came from Benjamin himself. Whilst being monitored alone in an interview room, he muttered something that would seal his fate. "She was helping me," he said. "How could I do that to her?" The interrogation of Benjamin Sebena stretched across 3 days and became one of the most intense in Wauwatosa police history. Benjamin initially claimed he had gone to Best Buy around 10 p.m. on the 23rd of December to buy a video game. He said he returned home and never left until driving to the police station the next morning. Detectives patiently and methodically began to dismantle his story. They presented him with the surveillance footage showing his distinctive Prius travelling from the crime scene. They confronted him with the rare ammunition found in his home. They showed him the documents for the specific type of pistol that had fired the unusual cartridge found at the scene. Benjamin's alibi was crumbling piece by piece. On the afternoon of the 25th of December, Christmas Day, Benjamin was taken into custody. He was transferred between Wauwatosa and West Alice police departments as the questioning continued. The pressure was mounting. At one point during the interrogation, Benjamin made a chilling statement to the camera. "If they ever make a stupid documentary," he said, "this is the photo that they're going to take. The mind of a killer." At 6:52 p.m. on the 26th of December, 2012, after approximately 60 hours of interrogation, Benjamin Sebena finally broke. "Confession time, right?" he said. "I did it." Benjamin's confession was detailed and damning. He admitted to stalking Jennifer for several days beforehand, identifying her break location and waiting for hours in the cold darkness on Christmas Eve morning. He confessed to shooting her from behind with the stolen pistol, taking her weapon, and then shooting her in the face with her own gun. But Benjamin's explanation for why he had committed this horrific act was what prosecutors would later call absurd. He claimed that he had been suicidal and that Jennifer had told him if he killed himself, she would commit suicide too. He said he killed her to save her from eternal damnation, since suicide is considered a sin in their faith. After shooting Jennifer, he claimed his gun had jammed when he tried to take his own life. A second search warrant executed that day located both murder weapons hidden in the attic ceiling of the Sebena home, concealed behind insulation. There was Jennifer's .40 caliber service pistol and the KBIPA 63 handgun that Benjamin had stolen from his father's house. The physical evidence corroborated every detail of his confession. Benjamin Sebena was charged on the 27th of December, 2012, with first-degree intentional homicide with use of a dangerous weapon, a Class A felony carrying mandatory life imprisonment. Bail was set at $1 million. Several Wauwatosa officers attended his first court appearance, wearing black bands over their badges in honour of their fallen colleague. The defence initially pursued a plea of not guilty by reason of mental disease or defect. 2 psychiatrists, including one retained by the defence, examined Benjamin extensively. Both concluded that whilst his PTSD was indeed severe, it did not meet the legal standard for insanity. He was capable of distinguishing right from wrong at the time of the murder. The case never went to trial. On the 26th of June, 2013, Benjamin Sebena changed his plea to guilty. The trial that had been scheduled for the 8th of July was cancelled. Sentencing came on the 9th of August, 2013, before Judge David Borowski. The courtroom was packed with Jennifer's family, friends, and fellow officers. The prosecution recommended that Benjamin serve 50 to 60 years before becoming eligible for parole. The defense requested 20 to 25 years. Jennifer's mother, Violet Gerhardt, delivered a devastating victim impact statement. She recounted the Christmas Eve morning when officers had come to inform her of Jennifer's death. She spoke about asking the funeral home about viewing her daughter's body. "She has no face," Violet said, "is all I conclude." The words hung heavy in the courtroom. Benjamin's mother, Linda Sebena, made an emotional plea for mercy. She wore her son's dog tags and Purple Heart medal as she spoke. She argued that the son they had sent to war was not the son who had come home. She called Jennifer another casualty of war, a victim of the trauma that Benjamin had brought back from Iraq. Benjamin himself addressed the court. "I'm sorry I took away your daughter," he said. "I'm sorry I took away your sister. If I could replace my own life for hers right now, I would do it." But his words could not undo the horror of what he had done. Judge Borowski sentenced Benjamin to life in prison with parole eligibility after 35 years. This meant Benjamin would be 65 years old before he could apply for release. The tragedy of Jennifer's death would claim another victim exactly 1 year later. On the 24th of December, 2013, Jennifer's brother Jacob Vernitsnik died by suicide at the age of 28. Jacob had been described in Jennifer's obituary as her best friend. Hours before his death, he had posted a childhood photograph of himself with Jennifer standing near a Christmas tree. The family's grief had become unbearable. The community's response to Jennifer's death was extraordinary. The Go Blue campaign saw memorial lights displayed throughout Wauwatosa. A scholarship was established in Jennifer's name. Officer Katie Girak completed 5 police unity tour rides in her honour. These tributes reflected how deeply one young officer's loss had resonated with people who had never even met her. Jennifer Sebena was more than the victim of a horrific crime. She was a devoted police officer, a caring mentor, a loving daughter and sister. Her name is now inscribed on the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C., ensuring that she will be remembered alongside the thousands of other officers who have given their lives in service to others. On behalf of everyone who knew and loved Jennifer, we ask that you remember her not for how her life ended, but for how she chose to live it. In service to others, with love in her heart, and with an infectious smile that brightened every room she entered. Please don't forget Jennifer.